Good morning, all of you. This is Dr. Chandni Batra from the Department of Oral Medicine and Radiology. Today, I'll be discussing about the red and white lesions of the oral cavity. So, whenever we are talking about the red and white lesion, first thing which comes to our mind, why red lesions appear red and why it is known as red lesions, and why white lesions appear white and why it is known as white lesions only. So, there are basically three entities which can be classified on the basis of clinical aspect, on the basis of their component, for example, like keratotic, necrotic, or vesiculobullous. These are the lesions which appear red and white in the oral cavity. So, when we are talking about the red lesions, the component it is red in color. So, why it is red? Because of the thinning or loss of the surface epithelium that can be due to the atrophy, erosion, or any kind of ulcerations in the oral cavity, or maybe due to the increased capillary blood supply just beneath the epithelium, or maybe the combination of all of these, that is inflammation, congenital hyperplasia, hypertrophy, or hemangioma. And when we talk about the white lesions, why it appear white in the oral cavity? That can be due to the thickening of the keratin layer, or it can also known as hyperkeratosis due to the acanthosis, that is your thickening of the spinous cell layer, or increase in the amount of edema fluid in the epithelium, that is also known as leukoedema, or because of the reduced vascularity in the underlying lamina propria. Now, whenever we are talking about the classification aspect of the white lesions, there are many classification which has been proposed till date, but some of them are authorized. For example, Burkitt's classification, WHO classification. Burkitt classification classified red and white lesions into the hereditary white lesions, reactive lesions, infectious lesions. When we talk about the hereditary white lesions, we have leukoedema, white spongy nevi, hereditary benign intraepithelial disc keratosis, and disc keratosis congenita. When we talk about the reactive and the inflammatory lesions, we have the linea alba, frictional keratosis, Morshiatobacterium. Then we have the injury which has been induced due to the chemicals, that is known as chemical injuries. Then we have actinic keratosis, which is also known as cheilitis. Then we have a smokeless tobacco induced keratosis and the sanguinaria induced leukoplakia. Whenever we are talking about the infectious white and red lesions, we have the oral hairy leukoplakia, candidiasis, mucus patches, and parulus. There are developmental white lesions as well, which is ectopic lymphoid tissues, fordyces granules, and gingival and palatal cyst. So all these lesions, it either appear red and white in the oral cavity. Now, according to Wood and Gauss, there are red lesions which have a keratotic component, that are migratory glossitis, chronic mechanical trauma, nicotine stomatitis, erosive lichen planus lichenoid reaction, speckled leukoplakia, erythroplakia. Then we have squamous cell carcinoma, hypertrophic and hyperplastic type of candidiasis, and lupus erythematosus. Now, coming upon to the red lesions with necrotic component, we have chemical burns, thermal burns, we have aphtha and stomatitis, crushing type of trauma, we have pyogenic granuloma, pseudomembranous type of candidiasis, xerostomia, radiation mucositis. So now coming upon to now, I will be discussing in detail about all these lesions. Coming upon to the chemical injuries. So as the name suggests, these are the injuries which has been induced by any of the chemical or the medicines patient has been taking. Etiology, contact with any kind of causative chemicals and drugs. Either it can be counter or the prescribed drugs. For example, we have aspirin, hydrogen peroxide, which has more than 3% concentration. Then we have the products which contains the phenol, silver nitrate, and most commonly which we encountered in the OPDs, we have the endomaterials, for example, formacrysol and sodium hypochlorite. When we use the higher concentration of these products, this can either lead to injuries in the mouth. Age and gender, can any patient can be affected by these kind of chemicals. Clinically, it appears as white wrinkled white slough with red base. We have the ulcerative lesions as well, along with the fibrinopurulent layer or the membrane. So these are the lesions which appear white in the oral cavity, and we can differentiate with other lesions as well. With the differential diagnosis of these lesions, candidiasis, leukoplakia, thermal burn, desquamative gingivitis, lichen planus, lichenoid reaction, or traumatic ulcers. When we talk about the differential diagnosis, it means the lesion which appears similar in the oral cavity. So whenever we are talking about the chemical injuries, there are other lesions as well which appears similar, which the clinical picture is similar with that of the previous lesion, but the clinical features and rest of the things, the etiology and the treatment planning is different. Now coming upon to the geographic tongue, which is also known as erythema migrans. The etiology is unknown. With no age predilection, females are most commonly affected as compared to males. It can occur in any of the oral sites, including buccal mucosa, labial mucosa, and your soft palate. Clinically, it is usually appears as the diffuse area of depapillation, mostly over the dorsal surface of the tongue. And why it is known as geographic tongue? Because it gives the appearance of the map over the tongue. That's why it is known as geographic tongue. This lesion can migrate into a days to weeks and often associated with the fissure tongue. Tends to have a fissure tongue, and which can further lead to the secondary infection, which is most commonly fungal infection. Patient usually having the geographic tongue or fissure tongue, they get affected by the secondary fungal infection, and the most common infection is your candidiasis. It may induce burning sensation. Patient may or may not be able to consume the spicy food. The differential diagnosis of this thing is candidiasis, geographic tongue. The differential diagnosis of geographic tongue is candidiasis. It can be leukoplakia or erythroplakia, contact allergic reactions, and lichen planus. So when we are talking about the other injuries, for example, Morshiatobaccarum, that is an injury which has been caused due to the chewing habit, due to the sharp cuspal edges of the molars. Etiology is usually frictional irritation from the chewing habit. Similar lesions can be observed in the glass blowers and some musicians. The etiology can be stress, psychological illness, or edge-to-edge bite. Mostly the females are most commonly affected. Age, it can occur in any of the age, mostly more than 35 years of the age. Buccal mucosa is more affected as compared to your labial mucosa, and then followed by the lateral aspect of the tongue. Clinically, it appears wide diffuse lesions with erythema, shredded, ragged, or macerated appearance. Now coming upon to the third lesion, which is usually encountered in the oral cavity, that is your oral lichen planus. Oral lichen planus, it is a mucocutaneous disorder of unknown etiology, which is associated with bilateral striations, papules, plaque on the buccal mucosa, tongue, and followed by the gingiva. This was a term which was first proposed by Erasmus Wilson in the year 1969. It is a lichenoid autoimmune mucositis with a clinically different but microscopically similar dermal counterpart. There are certain clinical features which can lead to the formation of lichen planus. Usually, when we talk about the steps which occurs when the lichen planus occurs, there are some things which is happening underlying. It can be initiating factor, or the even most common initiating factor or trigger is the stress, psychological illness for oral lichen planus, which leads to the release of focal regulatory cytokines, which in turn upregulate the vascular adhesion molecules, and followed by the recruitment and retention of the T lymphocytes, which further leads to cytotoxicity of basal keratinocytes or the triggering of the apoptosis. Mean age is usually 25 years. Females are most commonly affected. Buccal mucosa is the most common site. It has a prevalence rate of 0.1 to 2.2%. It is associated with pain, discomfort in atrophic and erosive form. It is also associated with a melanin pigmentation and often leads to inflammatory melanosis. When we talk about the classification of oral lichen planus, we have usually 6 clinical type of oral lichen planus. As I told you, it is a mucocutaneous disorder, so it can occur in the oral cavity as well as on the skin. So when we talk about the oral lichen planus, it is classified into 6 type of clinical features. First is a reticular, atrophic, erosive type, bullous type, papillar type, and the plaque type. When we talk about the reticular form, it is the most common type of lichen planus, oral lichen planus, which is encountered in the oral cavity. It is associated with or characterized by slightly elevated five lines, which is known as Wicken strias. The most appreciating or characteristic feature of the oral reticular type of lichen planus is your Wicken striae. These are basically the interlaced patterns, striations, which is clinically visible, clearly visible in the oral cavity. The patients are usually asymptomatic. It appears bilateral. Buccal mucosa most commonly infected, followed by tongue, lips, gingiva, floor of the mouth, and palate. It is associated with whitish elevated lesions or the papules, which is 0.5 to 1 millimeter in size. Large plaque type lesions can be observed over the buccal mucosa, tongue, and gingiva. When we talk about the atrophic type of lichen planus, there are inflamed areas of oral mucosa, which is covered by thin red appearing epithelium. There are red patches with fine white striations. So atrophic type, along with that of the Wicken strias, there are inflamed areas as well. Patient may complain of burning sensation, sensitivity, and generalized discomfort. When we talk about the erosive type of lichen planus, there can be number of complications with the atrophic type, which can lead to thinning of the epithelium, abrasion, and ulcerations. It occurs when extensive degeneration of basal cell epithelium from the underlying connective tissue. So whenever we are talking about the erosive type of lichen planus, this is a complication of atrophic type. Along with the features of atrophic, we have thinning or abraded epithelium along with the ulcerations. It may or may not be associated with drug therapy, underlying medical disorders, or due to the dental restorations, due to the friction of dental restorations. Then we have the bullous type of lichen planus. It is rarely observed in the oral cavity. It ranges from few millimeters to centimeter in diameter, generally short-lived, and on rupturing leave a ulcerated, extremely uncomfortable surface. Atrophic or erosive type of lichen planus may trigger desquamative gingivitis. We have a bright red edematous patches involving full width of attached gingiva. So whenever we are talking about the management of oral lichen planus, first we need to consider the etiology. First we have to remove the etiology, the causative agent which is triggering the lichen planus. If systemic drug therapy is causing, then we should change the drug. There are certain medications, for example, topical corticosteroids. If the patient is not getting relief with the topical corticosteroid, we may require to give systemic therapy, followed by antimycotic drugs and your systemic vitamin A or retinoid therapy. The most common drug which we prescribe in lichen planus is the betamethasone. It can be used as a mouth rinse, that is 0.5 milligram, concentration of 0.5 milligram, and the dosage is 10 to 15 ml into water for around 1 minute. Fluocinolone, this is a medium potency corticosteroid with a concentration of 0.01% to 0.025%. It can be available in the form of gel and ointments, and we have to use with or without Orabase and for the duration of around 1 month, thrice daily. Then we have a triamcinolone acetonide. It is also a medium potency corticosteroid. It can be also given topically or systemically depending upon the severity of the lichen planus. 0.1% triamcinolone acetonide with 1% carboxycellulose for dental paste, and we can, if the patient is not getting relief with the topical and the systemic therapy, we may require to give the intralesional corticosteroids. The dosage should be 5 milligram per ml intralesionally for approximately 4 weeks, and once in a week we need to give these intralesional steroids. How to prevent this disease? First, elimination of the stress causative agent or any kind of deleterious habits, followed by effective treatment of atrophic and the erosive type. As I have mentioned earlier, these two forms, atrophic and the erosive type of lichen planus, they have the maximum malignant potential as well. Consumption of the nutritional diet and elimination of superinfections. Now coming upon to the oral submucous fibrosis, Penbong and Sisser in 1966 defined it as an insidious chronic disease affecting any part of the oral cavity, sometimes the pharynx, although occasionally preceded by or associated with vesicle formation. It is always associated with juxtaepithelial inflammatory reactions followed by fibroelastic change of lamina propria with epithelial atrophy, leading to stiffness of the oral mucosa and causing trismus and inability to eat. Etiology: nutritional or vitamin deficiency, hypersensitivity to chili peppers. The most important etiology of oral submucous fibrosis is your consumption of areca nuts, habitual use of betel and its constituent, that is areca palm, leaf of betel pepper and lime, that is your calcium hydroxide. The quid consists of areca nuts, slake lime, betel leaf and cashew. Lime acts to keep these active ingredients in its free base or alkaline form. Arecolin is the main component which is seen in areca nut, which leads to the stiffness of the oral mucosa. So whenever we are talking about the clinical aspect of buccal mucosa, as its definition suggests, trismus, one of the most important characteristic feature of oral submucous fibrosis, as the name suggests, is your fibrosis, blanching of the buccal mucosa. There are 7 things which we need to remember in oral submucous fibrosis. First is your trismus. Second is the blanching along with your fibrous band, that can be vertical or the perioral or circular palpable bands, fibrous bands, followed by your reduced cheek flexibility. Patients, the cheek flexibility has been reduced in these kind of patients. Then the tongue protrusion, automatically it gets reduced. Okay, and the fifth one is your shrunken or hockey shaped uvula. The uvula gets shrunken in size. Then it's your hoarseness of the voice. Patient is not able to, the voice become little hoarse in nature, and the taste sensation, it basically appears, it get alters because the patient is not able to consume the spicy food. And your last one is the burning sensation in the oral cavity, and that to be very severe depending on the stage of the oral submucous fibrosis. Whenever we are talking about the staging, there are many classification which has been proposed till date for oral submucous fibrosis, but the most accepted classification is by Pinberg in the year 1989 and your by Khanna et al. In the year 1995. So the Pinberg classification is your stage 1, 2 and 3. 1 is your erythematous mucosa, vesicles, ulcers, pigmentation and mucosal petechiae. We have a stage 2 along with fibrosis, vesicles. We have blanching of buccal mucosa with vertical and circular palpable bands, trismus, blanched leathery floor of mouth, atrophic tonsils, shrunken bud-like uvula and reduced cheek flexibility. Stage 3, along with all these features, we have leukoplakia, which is again other pre-malignant lesion. There is speech and hearing deficit may occur because of the involvement of tongue and eustachian tube. When we talk about the Khanna et al. Classification, it is in the year 1995. We have group 1, 2, 3, 4A, 4B. It is on the basis of mouth opening. In the group 1, the mouth opening, the interincisal distance is greater than 35 millimeters. Group 2, that is between 26 to 35 millimeter. Group 3, between 15 to 26 millimeters. Group 4A, that is your severe trismus with less than 15 millimeter interincisal opening. And group 4B, most advanced with pre-malignant and malignant changes in the mucosa. There are certain lab tests which is required for OSMF, that is your iron levels, hemoglobin levels, proteins level, vitamin B levels. Immunohistochemical techniques shows alteration of cytokeratin expression, aberrant expression of cytokeratin A. Management, very early and early stages require cessation of habit, followed by your conservative treatment. Moderate to severe stages are usually irreversible and is aimed at symptomatic, which includes your medical as well as surgical approach. Medical care, we need to give the corticosteroids, as the mode of action of corticosteroid which occurs, which give in these kind of patients is your anti-inflammatory, immunosuppressant, and it has an effect of blood and lymphatics in palliation of the disease. Dexamethasone, it is given in the dose of 4 milligram. It can be given topically also and lesional injection also. Triamcinolone acetonide, again 10 milligram per ml, it is diluted in 1 ml of lidocaine 2%. Intralesionally can be given bi-weekly. Betamethasone, it can be given in the concentration of 0.05% topically for 6 hours for 3 weeks. 6 hourly for 3 weeks. There are other therapies as well, which includes a vitamin E with steroids, injection of goals, vasodilator injections, and foremost thing, we need to modify the diet of the patient, because the complaint of these patients is usually they are not able, they don't able to eat food properly because of the burning sensation, reduced mouth opening. There are a lot of things which is happening in the oral cavity, and because of that they are not able to consume the food. So first and the foremost problem of these kind of patient comes is the reduced mouth opening followed by inability to eat. So we have to make sure that the mouth opening, it should be like, if the patient has gone beyond the stage of 4A or 4B, we immediately require a surgical approach and the surgical treatment followed by your intralesional steroid therapy as well as systemic therapy. But for the patient which falls under the category of group 1, 2 and 3, we need to start with a conservative treatment and provide the symptomatic relief to the patient by giving the topical corticosteroid followed by your antioxidants, antimycotic drugs. Now coming upon to the candidiasis, which is a fungal infection, opportunistic infection caused by different groups of genus Candida. It takes the form of superficial curdy great white membrane that can be readily scraped off to reveal an underlying erythematous inflammatory base. Candida is a commensal organism in normal oral flora in about 30 to 50%. Milder expressions, it leads to the formation of ulcers, superficial subepithelial inflammatory infiltrate. Clinical type, we have the oropharyngeal, vulvovaginal, parenchymal, intradigital and intratrigonous type of candidiasis. Etiology, usually the oral mucosal environment. Particular strain of Candida albicans is usually associated with this pathogenic infections. Clinically, it appears as pseudomembranous, hyperplastic, erythematous and angular cheilitis. It can be classified either into the acute form or the chronic form. Acute, we have thrush and antibiotic stomatitis, while the chronic, we have denture sore mouth and candidal leukoplakia. So I hope you people are thorough with these kind of terms. What is the red and white lesions? So I have covered 4 topics in my lecture today. These lesions appears white in the oral cavity, only the etiology is different. And once we know the etiology, why it is happening in the oral cavity, once we are sure about the diagnosis, then only we can formulate a treatment plan. And we have to make sure, we have to categorize the lesion firstly into the stages 1, 2 and 3. Until we are not sure about the stage, we cannot proceed towards the treatment. So we have to be sure enough about the treatment as well as the diagnosis part to formulate a treatment. Thank you so much.